So we're here tonight. My name is Paul Congdon. I'm with Positive Life magazine, and I've interviewed Mark a couple of times. And he has brought out a new book. So we're here to have a chat with him in this amazing healing space, Mark. This is where you do all your work.
This is where the magic happens.
Yeah, brilliant. So the book, just want to tell people, first of all, what you've done. You're what you would call a natural healer. You've been practicing for 30 years.
Yeah.
And you've done your main therapies that I know about is a matsu, which I'm a big fan of. I love a matsu. Yeah. Getting your structure right.
Yep.
And also trance healing, which we'll hear a bit more as I chat to you about that. So you're very welcome. Great to have you. Great to chat to you again. We always have a good little chin wag when we do this. So first of all, I want to ask you, this is the book, A Guide to Healing by Mark Cleary. And I just want to ask you, Mark, how did the book come about? What was the inspiration to write that book?
Okay, that's interesting. I teach courses, as you know, and before I even structured the course together properly, the way I do it nowadays, I was teaching a lot of weekend workshops. And basically, I'd be just sharing all the experience I've gathered over the years. So I'd be talking about it, I'd be sharing techniques with people and, just showing them how they can do stuff at home or whatever. And then it started to get more serious, where I was putting a real course together that I can teach a person to do the techniques I do. But what I kept being asked was, can we read about this somewhere? And quite simply, the answer was no. I've brought this all together as my experience. So there wasn't one book out there that you could say, there it is. There might be 40 books that if you brought them all together, you'd get all the bits. Stuff I'd read over the years or stuff I'd done. But it was like, I better put this together now. It's like people who've done the course with me, that's like the handbook to take away, let's say, so yeah. That's how it came together.
Yeah, it's like, same as myself, when you work in this field, you pick up a lot of amazing information and you kind of want to get it all down into one space, So you've done that. And couple of things I want to talk about. We'll kick off with, it's a bit boring at this point, but the lockdown.
Oh, okay.
The only reason I want to talk about it is because it brought some creativity out of you.
Yeah.
It inspired you in some way, which I think happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we'll forget about the lockdown as in the boring parts of it, but just tell us about the inspiration that came to you.
The good stuff
during
that came for me. Well, what blew me away was everything I do, it's always been about I've always thought I need to be in the room. My energy has to be there to hold the space for people to get benefits. And I never thought I could do that over the internet. And because the lockdown happened, I was like, okay, this is interesting. How long are we going to be sitting here for? And the first thing I thought of was people are going to be panicking. They're going to be scared. So what can I give them can I help the situation? Meditation. I'm a meditation instructor. So I thought, there's a meditation on my website. I wonder how many people we could gather at the same time every day to do the same meditation. Just quite simply that. Let's build a group. And they might, like I was in Spain for the lockdown. So I reached out to Ireland, where most of the people that I know are here in Ireland. But we ended up with people in Ireland, with people in England, with people in Spain, with people in Japan, America. They came from everywhere, Australia. And they were all joining in, all sitting at the same time. And within 2 weeks, there was 1,200 members on the page on Facebook. And I was like, wow, where are they all coming from? And the word was just spreading. And the most important thing was the positivity that was coming back through messages. And I thought, now this is worth doing. So I did 1 or 2 a week in the beginning live, where I would just sit in front of my laptop and do it live, have a little chat first, do it live. And that was attracting hundreds of people. And it was like, wow, this is really good. So we kept it going. We did it every day. We did over 70 days in a row.
My God.
And it was great before we broke it,
And now how often are you doing them? About once a week, is it?
I did take a break from a month ago. I did a big one we called it the book launch night. And that attracted like 1,100 people that night on a Friday night. I was like, whoa, I was shocked, and it was brilliant. And then I took a break until last week. And when I went back on last week to do a live meditation, again, there was like 300 or 400 people joined in that night. And, you know, that has inspired me to keep it going. So, yeah, I'm going to keep it going for as long as, it's probably something that's going to be ongoing all the time now, you know. So, yeah.
I think, Mark, what we, I want to touch on a few things in the book, right? But what I'm getting from you is, and it's similar to myself in a sense, responsibility for your own health and giving people that power is what you're kind of about. You know, you want people to get the knowledge, to know how to look after themselves, to know that when they have a problem, they can go inside rather than outside, right? That's the kind of, is that the flavor of the book? Is it like a manual for? That?
The flavour of the book is basically, like I said, covering the content of the course, but people come to me come on the course and they want to be a healer. I call it, I just call it a healing course. I didn't even put a name on it. I'll tell you why in a minute. But yeah, they want to be a healer. But to me, to be that, you have to heal yourself. And what I feel I do today after 30 years is I just share my experience of how I changed my life. And okay, there's techniques involved in holding other people, but I truly believe that I'm here today at the level I'm at with the work that I do because I worked on me. So when people turn up to be the healer, they're surprised that it's like, well, who are you? What's in your heart? What's holding you back? Can we break that down? And as we break that down, it seems to then happen very quickly for them. And the reason I do that is over the years, I met many, many, many people who, let's use Reiki just as an example. This, I don't mean to be negative in any way, shape or form about something like Reiki because it's amazing. But I met so many people who'd qualified as Reiki masters. And then you're like, oh, why are you working? Oh, no, I just do it for myself. I'm like, why aren't you working with it? Why? And I was always meeting that all the time, as I do with many other systems. And I was like, there's a serious lack of confidence in these people. And when I looked at a lot of the courses that are being taught, it's just like you turn up, you get written work to do, you do the theory, you have a little experience and off you go. There was never anything about really truly healing the self as a start point. And that's where I come from with the course. And that's why I brought this together it's the guidelines for the course, more or less, you know.
I want to talk about one of the first gateways into the self, and this is part of your work as well, what you use, and it's the heart, okay, because the heart's getting a lot of attention at the moment. If you work from the mind judges, it has opinions, it has fears. When you move to the heart center, you're operating in what I would probably call feeling, the language of feeling, rather than thinking. Thinking's just all over the shop. We all know that now with the work of Eckhart Tolle, people like that. We know that the mind is not really where it's at. It's a thing we need to navigate the world, but this heart space is getting a lot of attention. You talk about how you use the heart space in your work.
Yeah, it's the only place to work from as far as I'm concerned. I want the mind to be gone, shut down. And really, the first weekend that I teach on the course, I call it the Heart Space Weekend. And a lot of people leave after the first day. They can't come back the next day because they've met themselves for the first time. And they know they're carrying issues or baggage, let's say, as we all do. But it can be very hard for someone to break through that. And I've seen many people kind of going, wow, I'll do that again next year maybe. But it's so important to clear. I see it as an emotional center. And if you look out in the world, most people, the emotion that's driving them is fear. So when you go in and sit with that for the first time, you meet your fears. And it's about breaking through that to be cleaner, let's say, to have confidence in who you are, to understand that this is actually holding me back. The way I feel makes me think a certain way. And now it's all connected to the mind. And it's reciprocal. It's always like a hamster wheel. I think it, I feel it, I feel it, I think it. And we have to break that because to do this work, it's still alien to a lot of people. we're indoctrinated by a medical system that does things a certain way. And for us to think different is difficult, and to trust the way we think and feel, and to understand that that can make changes, because we're not taught that from infancy, you know. We're taught something very different. We're taught everything is outside of us. And when you go in here, you realize you have the control or the power, or you understand that negativity I'm holding is holding me back.
Where it's leading me now, Mark, is this thing you talk about, which is called no mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a term for that, which you can tell us in a second, but it's a space of, it's a really healing space, right? And you use it a lot in your work, I know. You use it in your trance healing.
Yeah.
So it's another thing you touch on in the book. Can you tell us about what that space feels like and why it's so effective?
Yeah. It's, well, what does it feel like? It actually feels like nothing. It feels like you've been asleep when you sit in that space. It's a very deep meditative space. And I believe, and it's just, again, just through my experience, if you can sit and hold that space with another person in the room and your intention is clean, well, this is how I work it. And I'm sure it's open to be worked many, many ways. But the way I work it is, we're sitting for healing, for whatever this person is ready to let go of. Have no expectations. And I just sit and hold the space then. And that's all I'm doing. If you looked at me, you'd probably say he's asleep. I just sit. And it's incredible to think what the intention can do then, you know. I can't explain it, to be honest with you. The no mind thing for me comes because I did martial arts for many, many years, and they use this word mushin, no mind. And the fighter, when he's trained to a level that his skills can come out without thinking, they say from his perspective in a fight, he's moving in slow motion. So that's how he can see everything coming before it comes, and he can win that fight. That's him in no mind. He's not thinking about anything, and he's allowing his techniques to just flow. All the information is inside him. And that's really interesting for me because, as you said, I'm an Amatsu therapist. I studied Amatsu for a lot of years. I know all the techniques. We studied a lot of craniosacral therapy as well. We did a lot of different stuff in those years. And when I sit over there in that corner and I have a person lying on the plinth, many, many times they've said to me after, you know, when you came up and you held my foot or you moved my arm, they tell me about an Amatsu session that I didn't do. I was sitting there. So there's the no mind or the martial skills coming out. They come out in the energy. And the person actually feels them like they're being physically worked on. And that happens an awful lot. So it's like, there's the no mind for me. It's a truly magical place.
It's and now when we apply it to the, you know, we're kind of leafing through the chapters here of the book so people really get a sense of it. But the chakra system, okay? So most people are living in the lower chakras: survival, fear, which is kind of the solar plexus, and the base chakra, right? So a lot of people will kind of inhabit those chakras, and usually they're out of balance, you know. Yeah. But talk to me about how you see a system of chakras all working in harmony and balance together. Is there a master chakra? Should if somebody's trying to do this work, should they say, I should sit in my heart all the time? How do I keep myself in balance, you know? Or is it just simply connecting with them in a meditation? What would you
the way I see it, if I keep it simple, because I could talk about this all day, I think of the root chakra being, you'll always hear me saying that's a great word because it's the roots. Now, excuse me, any plant that has roots, what does it need to produce a real plant? It needs proper food or proper minerals, proper fuel, and usually that comes in the form of minerals or feed. Yeah. So our root chakra, if you go into, it's part of an energy system. So what feeds our energy system? What's the fuel for it? And the fuel for it is our thoughts. Now, if I'm living in fear, I'm going to be thinking negatively about myself a lot. I'm not going to have the belief in who I am. So there's the fuel that I'm giving to my root chakra. Now, that grows, let's say, up to the next chakra, which I see as the connection to myself, because it's about connection and creation, because our sexual organs are there and we create from those sexual organs. We create life. So inwardly, I'm creating my life. So if it's grown from a negative root, this is going to be negative. My creation is going to be negative. And the next one up being, I look on that as our all-knowing inner voice, our intuitive center. Now, if these are weak because the fuel is the wrong fuel, my inner voice isn't going to be heard. I won't trust myself to hear it. And then you get to what is truly the important one, is the heart. So what's growing into my heart? Is it negativity or is it positivity? And if we're in fear, as most of us are, we're going to be feeding that fear into our heart, which is the real emotional love center. So how am I loving myself? It's all coming from the bottom. So you can't separate it. It's all connected. Now, when I come up to the next one, it's the voice. So what am I speaking about? Am I speaking from a place of fear, or am I speaking from a place of my truth or positivity? This all grows together. I think the other two are more about understanding and holding knowledge and truly believing in it. But it's all, bring it in. Always bring it inward and see how that feels with you. So it really all starts in, what am I feeding my roots? What are my thoughts? If they're not good all the time, if I get up in the morning and I don't want to go to work, I'm dragging myself out of bed, I look in the mirror, I don't like what I see. Yeah, all those little bits are adding up and adding up and adding up. And why are you growing? What's your energy system being fed with? You know?
And you see, for most people, that's the default setting. They live from the mind, and the mind is constantly, it's always judging, it's always up to something. So how do you use meditation in relation to the chakras that can start to give people a handle on those, that they will heighten their awareness, allow them to see the negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts? Talk us through the meditation that you use.
It's breath work. I just use the chakras like a map almost. I don't pay, it might sound like I paid huge attention to them. I don't in the mystical sense, but I like to get people to move the energy of their breath right down into the chakra and then send it up through their spine. So what they're really doing is they're learning how to breathe deep and slowly. They're learning how to inhale and exhale in the same way. Because most people will take a deep breath, and when you say exhale, then it comes out really fast because they're almost in a panic because they've taken so much air in. So I like to use them as a tool to bring your breath down, bring it back up, bring it down slowly. And we repeat that a few times. So
into each chakra?
Yeah. So it's really about getting them to breathe properly, because most people don't breathe properly. And that brings wonderful stillness into the body. You're bringing fresh oxygen in, It does amazing things.
And connecting with each of those centers. Yeah.
But I don't even pay lots of attention to the centers as such. I do where this really came home to me was, I was started a number of years ago to meet people with cancer, more so than I'd ever done. And when they were holding a cancer in a certain part, I was going, oh, that chakra is in that area. I wonder, if I asked a question, like if it was down at the base in the roots, I'd ask, tell me about your self-esteem or your confidence. And inevitably they'd tell me they had none. And so on. I'd be like, do you understand who you are? Do you connect with yourself on any level? And they'd be like, no. Do you ever listen to your inner voice? Do you ever catch yourself telling yourself you knew the right thing to do and you didn't? All the time. They've serious illness going on in that area. They're blocking it, and that's the way I look at them, rather than from a mystical place. I'm like, hey, what are you holding in there? What thoughts are driving you? And look where it's been stuck. Really, that's the way I think about it. Because the mystical is mystical, you know. We're in a real world here.
You want to give people a practical sense of it. Yeah. I throw a bit of a curveball here. So you have this book. It's on the table. I just want to ask you, you've been around the block, right? You've seen a lot of teachers. You've been to all the workshops. You've read all the books. You're big into nutrition.
Yeah.
What teachers, as you reflect back in your life, have been the most influential on you? Give me 2 or 3 teachers that have just, you went, wow, that work is amazing.
Well, the guy we studied Amatsu with, Dennis Bartram, he's way out there as regards a body worker. He's incredible. Great guy. He's just I haven't met anyone else like him in the 30 years. The biggest compliment I get is when people say, you work like Dennis. I take that as, wow, I'll have that. That's a nice one. He's just great. And
I thought you were going to say Hatsumi.
No, Hatsumi would be next.
Okay.
Dennis was a huge influence in my life as regards set me on this path. Now there's other guys, you know, we can go to the Hatsumis or the Bhagavan in India or Deepak Chopra I studied with, but I like to go back to my first martial arts teacher. Great guy. And he really drove me forward. It just turned out that he's one of my closest friends today. Great guy. The first 2 psychotherapists I ever met who helped me a great deal in my mid-30s when my marriage had broke up, Siobhan Lundberg and Stuart Green. 2 fantastic people who always were willing to do more work with themselves and share that back to people, you know. So, you know, I look to home for the great ones, and they're the people who really sent me in this direction. Now, then I went out and, I'd met Hatsumi. Hatsumi was brilliant, you know. What's great about Hatsumi is, talk about no fear. He just gives it all away and lets people do what they will with it, you know. He's been great. And I met a guy at an ashram in India, Bhagavan, another great guy, another Hatsumi in my estimation. A very ordinary, decent, non-judgmental person who's just sharing what he knows, you know. So yeah, people like that.
It's amazing to hear that. Yeah, I love the story you told about Hatsumi when you had to pass the exam and he hit you with the stick. So that we won't go over that one again, but that was funny. I want to go back to the book now, and is there elements of tantra in the book and yoga? Do you weave those in as well? Or
no, I didn't bring them into the book.
You didn't bring them in. Okay, so it's more, I've seen in the book there as well, you have massage and you have kind of body work and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to talk about there that...
Well, they're just the techniques I use that I've fine-tuned a lot of stuff. I don't really do Amatsu these days the way it was taught to me, but Amatsu in its translation really leaves it open for the person to develop within Amatsu to bring their own personality to the table, if you like. That was the old way of Amatsu. It was very open. Nowadays, it's very structured because it has to be when you're teaching courses like that. You know, there's insurance involved and all these things, so they have to keep it tight and you follow rules and guidelines. But when we learned it was very open-minded and it was great, because it allowed them a personality to develop into it. Now you meet Amatsu people, and again, I'm not being negative. I sent my daughter to do Amatsu, you know, I love it. But they all speak the same, and they all tell you the same way, and that's the way it's taught these days. But we had it very open and flowing, and it was great. So that's not in there, but what I have in there is the way I fine-tune those techniques over the years to simplify it. I like simple. Simple that gets results. So that's what's in the book more than anything. You know?
So if people buy this book, and I said this to you beforehand, really you'd love them to go on the course.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to tell them how to do all these things and they walk away with the book, and the book is like the reminder when they get back. Yeah. That's kind of how it acts. I know you've got one coming up in Spain.
A retreat.
Yeah.
But, you know, just jumping back there for a sec, this work I do is all about experience. You can't get experience from a book. So what I hope this inspires people to do is to come on the course afterwards. That they'll go, I want to learn that. I want to know how to do that. Because even if you just bring it home to your family, And the next time somebody hurts their back or their twist or ankle or whatever, you'll fix it. If you understand that course, you know.
I think it's great because people to go on your course and they don't know much about you is a bit of a leap.
Yeah,
but they can read the book, and if it resonates with them,
then they can go to
the next step. Yeah. But you've got one coming up in October, and you do it in a great place in Spain. Yeah, you were telling me. Amazing spot.
It's beautiful. It was built from rubble 20 years ago, and they did an incredible job in it. It's on its own land, 33 acres. They grow a lot of their own food. They have a vegan chef in there, and she is amazing. It's luxurious. It's
give me a typical day on the workshop. Just give it so people get a flavour.
We'll do yoga at 8 o'clock in the morning for an hour, then have breakfast. Then they come back in, and I'll take a 3-hour session where we do visualization meditations, and it's all the first. I go through the heart space. What's the next one then? Yeah, we do the heart one the first day, so it's all about people connecting with their hearts, with themselves and with others. Then the next day we do deeper meditations where we start to feel and experience energy, and then the rest of the week develops into we do sessions. Like, we'll pull out plinths. People who've never done healing before, I'll show them how to do healing sessions, how to hold that energy for people, and that develops all through the week. But what's happening truly is it's a big healing session for each individual, on whatever level they can take it. Each day just builds up and up and up to be a big healing session by the end of the week. And I'm not someone who blows his own trumpet, but if you saw the transformations from that week, it blows me away. It's like I've done this work one-on-one for 30 years, and all I want to do now is work with these groups in a week long or two. Let's get them bigger even, because what they leave behind is phenomenal. Is in a sense of a year later, people are writing to me saying, "Mark, that changed my life. I'm doing this now and doing that." It's just incredible.
I want to go back a bit to the no mind thing, because I love that. I love that. So every time every time I've been to a healer over the years, people have said to me, "I'm not really doing the healing, you are." I'm even the best healers I've been to. They say, "Look, I'm facilitating something here, but essentially your body's doing the healing." Yeah. So when you're in the workshops and you create that space where there's no mind, I presume you try and lead people in there.
Yeah.
And you have a group gathering, all in a state of no mind. Yeah. Do you feel that once you get into that state, there's nothing to do then? That the body will step in and do what needs to be done? Like, the body almost goes, "Wow, he's not thinking. He's not saying anything negative. He's not worrying about next week. Yeah, I can do some work here." Is that what's happening?
There's an intelligence in there that I don't think we'll ever understand. And when you give it the space to, it knows, this body knows what it needs, that body knows what it needs. We never give it a chance. When we go into our deepest state of rest, it's when we're sleeping. But when you do it this way, that you can bring, very often people fall asleep on this table and they tell me, "I could hear myself snoring." Now, when do you ever hear yourself snoring? That happens an awful lot. I've experienced it myself when I lie in the space. It's almost like you go into a different level, that you're aware of yourself lying there sleeping, but you're not asleep. And it's in that space that the magic seems to happen, Yeah, there's an intelligence in there that I think we'll never possibly understand it fully, I don't, in any way.
I suppose I wanted to ask you about, and we spoke about this earlier, someone like Joe Dispenza, or even your own work where you're visualizing. So you're getting the person to visualize, let's say, their body in an incredibly healthy state. Yeah. What we've just said is, when you get to no mind, it's effortless. You don't really need to do anything. So is that visualization really necessary?
Good question.
That's what I'm wondering,
Yeah, I think the visualization is the intention. And I think the intention is very important. I really do. Like I said, when I sit there and somebody explains to me they had a session, they only have a session, it seems to be, of the stuff that I truly understand. So it was my intention or knowledge coming into the space. So I think it's important to have that intention. Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm citing Dispenza's work because I'm talking to him this week. So his thing is intention combined with elevated emotion is what causes
the result.
For it to manifest into your experience. So that's what you would do as well, is it? You feel
seeing it. You're talking about seeing it in the clearest possible way, that seeing the end result. Absolutely.
Feeling it. Yeah. So what's the plans for the book, Mark? What do you want to achieve by this book? Do you feel like is there a good sense of achievement around getting, it's your first book, right?
Yeah.
Is there a sense of achievement?
Yeah, of course there is. But it took me so long to get out that I almost got bored with it, to be honest. But no, when I look at it, I just think, that's a beautiful piece of work. But what it's driven me to do, and I'm in the process of it, I've already started writing, and it's like I spoke briefly about some things in there, and there's so much more I need to say, or so much more I'd like to say, that the next one, and it's probably going to take a couple of years to get it out there, because I'm going to go in, but what I'd love, if this one, I'd love it to inspire people to take that work on as something. I'd love that to inspire anybody that picks it up to be able to say, oh, I could do that, because I truly believe anybody can do healing. I think it's a part of us that we've forgotten. The next one, I'd like to really show people how we're creating our own issues, health, mental, physical, the whole lot. We're responsible for everything that's going on. And I know you can throw questions at that. Oh, what about illness? I was born with this, that, and the other. But there's a different way of thinking. And I think what's driven me a lot is I hear so many people giving out about the pharmaceuticals and the doctors. And I ask, why do you need to go to them? Why don't you take responsibility for you? Is it easier for you to give out and blame it on someone else? Is it too difficult for you to look after you? Because we all have the capability of doing that. Okay, we need a bit of knowledge, but it's a very interesting thing to learn about. Being responsible for this one thing. Only once, we have one chance, so.
It's kind of funny because in the recent, we're still going through it, of course, but in the lockdown and stuff, there hasn't been a lot of talk about the immune system. I was in a supermarket recently, and it was a friend of mine. He was telling me a story. He said he was in a supermarket, and he's big into his health. He's in organic veg, everything, And he said everybody's walking around with trolleys and masks with trolleys full of beer, cigarettes, chocolates.
So, what blew me away in this country,
which there's nothing wrong with, by the way. We all like a bit of chocolate. We all like a beer, but balance.
I'm in Spain, and the lockdown comes to shut down everything except the essential food stores. Up here, they shut down everything and leave the essentials open. What was one of the essentials they left open? The takeaways. What the hell was that about? Our health is in danger, and they leave the biggest junk food places open. So
we have to have he has to get his pizza, the cameraman here,
Like you say, there's nothing wrong with that every now and again, but when you're doing it all the time, you're going to run into trouble,
Yeah.
It's about responsibility. It's about, and most people that you talk to understand it, but they just don't know where to even start as regards creating, or food particularly is, everybody looks at drugs and alcohol as big addiction problems, and they are. Food is worse, and it causes more damage. The wrong food is probably the biggest addiction thing out there, And they left the bloody things open when there was a great chance for the government to get people to change a little bit, But
it's it's funny you mentioned Reiki earlier on, and I almost see health as a bit of a superpower, and probably because when I started learning how to do Reiki years ago, I couldn't believe that I could just do that with my hand. And a pain would go. Yeah. But it was more the sense that I was doing it, that there was something coming innate in me that could heal the situation, So this book is about that. You're trying to empower people. The course is about that. Yeah. It's a bit of a cliche sometimes, but I really feel it's authentic from you. You don't want people coming back to you 50 times. No. You want a guy walking in and going, I went to Mark Cleary 4 or 5 times, and now I have more responsibility about my own health. I know I have some tools. I know what to do in this situation. Like the people who go on your course, I'm sure you've got some great testimonials or people's lives changing. I'd love, actually, if you shared one that really impacted you, it would be great.
There's been so many. Jesus, so many. This girl was coming and she's bringing her sister, and her sister couldn't come. So she brought her other sister. And I met her at the airport for the first time, and she was this type of girl who was dressed in a pair of shorts and a vest, and she came along like a guy would come along, how are you, you know, girl from Ballyfermot, and shaking hands, and where can I have a smoke, you know, and I'm like, outside, have a smoke. So off she goes to have her smoke, and her sister who brought her is kind of like, that's me sister Mark, and I'm like, yeah, lovely to meet her, that's great. And she was a little bit kind of, wow, are you okay with it? Yeah, of course I'm okay with it. This isn't about any sort of judgment. So we go on, we get down to the retreat centre, and this girl turned out to be the comedian for the week. Everybody loved her, but the initial meeting her was like, wow. But it turned out that she suffered horrendously with depression, anxiety. She's gay. She didn't have an issue around being gay, but you know, the stigma around her. She was getting bullied in work. So many things gone wrong in her life up to that point. And what was beautiful about that whole week, she did it and she loved it. She never did meditate in her life, didn't understand any of it. And there was a girl on the retreat who owns a boutique, and she'd brought a lot of clothes with her. So she brought this girl into her room on the last evening. We're having a champagne reception to finish it all off. And she walked out, and we're all in this little place having our champagne. And she won't mind me saying her name, Loretta walked out, and she stood at the pool, and she was dressed in flowing women's clothes, beautiful colours. She had makeup on, and she just stood there going, I found my inner woman at last. And it was, what a profound moment.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to her last week, which is a little over a year later, and she just said to me, Mark, my life has never been like this ever. And you know, to see that change in that person is just phenomenal. You know?
I'm glad you shared that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, it was great,
That's
great. And there's many of those stories, you know.
It really uplifts you, you know, you can see it. Like, that's what you want, isn't it? You know, that's where the juice is, you know, getting that feedback. We're going to sum up now, Mark. So I want to, let's tell people where they can get the book.
Okay.
And they should buy the book. And the other thing is, where do they find out about your courses and what's coming up, and give them the dates and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's all on the website. The book isn't on the website up to this point, but it will be. How soon will it be? Our cameraman's going to sort that out. My great internet guy. We're going to get the book onto the internet, because the only place to get it is through Amazon, or here. I have some here at the clinic. We're going to get it onto the website as soon as possible. The website is just markcleary.net. The information about the courses is there. Anything I do is there. Facebook page, Mark Cleary. We have a new page, Healing Animatsu Dublin. That's the latest page that we've put up. But the meditation page, Meditation with Mark Cleary pop-up group, that's the one that I'm doing the live meditations on. It's on Facebook. It's free. Anybody can you have to apply to join that. Just jump on there and apply, and we'll get you on that.
Brilliant.
So everything I do but is markcleary.net. So
markcleary.net. And before we go, Mark, anything that you want to share, anything that you feel you left out, just give you that chance in case there's something.
One thing I'd love to share as well, my partner and myself are qualified in what's called Tantra Kaula Yoga. It's a traditional form of yoga that is taught from the Vedas. And the school and the teacher there is just a wonderful, wonderful place. There's very few teachers in Ireland. There's one in Greystones, Julie. There was a girl in Palmerstown who we qualified in it with the permission of Bhagavan in India, Christine. She's not teaching at the moment. And I don't know of anyone else in the country who teaches that style of yoga. There could be. If you are, please let me know, because I'm always recommending people to do it. But my partner Sandra is running 3 classes a week on Facebook for the measly sum of €12, and you can do it in your own home. And she does them live 3 times a week.
For couples, for individuals,
whatever. An individual, if there's 10 people in one house, you all join for the 12 quid. You don't have to, not everybody has to pay. But
That'd be a happy house, Mark. 10 people doing
yeah,
tantra.
Yeah, of course. But what's great about this yoga, and especially it's really kicked in at this time we're having, it's all about relaxation. You stay on the floor for the whole class, and it's real proper relaxation yoga, all about the breath work and about just doing what you can do, non-competitive. When we teach it, we give people eye masks, so they can't look around the room, they can't look at themselves, they can't judge themselves. And again, the emails and response that we're getting to that is phenomenal. So yeah, I'd love the more people that could join that, the better, you know. And it's so easy to do in the comfort of your own home, you know. So yeah.
So get your face mask off.
Yeah.
Get your eye mask on. You're up and running.
Yeah, get that thing off your nose.
Mark Cleary, it's been a real pleasure talking to you again.
Yeah, always is.
Great to have you. Thanks, man. Cheers. Good luck with the book.
Yep.